Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to picture a scene from historical Islamic accounts that is just incredibly heartbreaking, but also deeply profound. Imagine a starving mother, totally exhausted by the heat, standing at the door of the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, home. And in her trembling hand, she's holding the absolute only thing she has left in this entire world, a single small date. At that exact moment, standing there empty-handed in the sweltering heat of Medina, she had absolutely no idea that this tiny, seemingly insignificant piece of fruit was about to become her literal shield against the fire of the afterlife. Okay, let's dive into this. The massive number one you're seeing represents everything today. One single date. It's almost hard to wrap our minds around, isn't it? I mean, we live in a world of abundance, where one date is just a quick passing snack. But in the context of our historical sources, this single piece of fruit transformed from a meager bite of food into a monumental, literal shield against hellfire. It's a staggering concept that, within these texts, completely reframes how charity and divine mercy are actually viewed.
Section 1. The weight of one date.
To really understand the immense weight of that one date, we kind of have to travel back in time. During this era, the city of Medina faced crushing hardship and widespread famine. Hunger was a very harsh daily reality. Even the most respected companions and the very household of the Prophet, peace be upon him, often faced agonizing days where there was literally no food in their homes. And this makes the contrast so fascinating. Look at the comparison here. It's human nature to assume that to earn divine pleasure, we need these grand, sweeping gestures, right? Like donating millions of dollars or building monumental structures. Yet, the historical accounts teach something entirely different. The reality is that the pure sincerity of the heart matters infinitely more than the physical size of the gift. Section 2. A mother's ultimate sacrifice. We often feel like our tiny contributions just don't matter, which is exactly why this next event is so incredibly powerful. Let's move to these steps and see how this builds when that starving, desperate mother actually arrives at the door of Aisha, the Prophet's wife, with her 2 young daughters in tow. They haven't eaten in days. First, Aisha searches her entire home to help them, but due to the severe famine, she can only find a single date. Step 2. She hands it to the starving mother. Now, basic survival instinct would demand she eat it, right? But look at step 3. Driven by pure, God-given maternal mercy, the mother immediately splits the date in 2. She gives the halves to her 2 daughters, taking absolutely nothing for herself. The sources really highlight how this pure act of sacrifice elevates a simple piece of fruit into something divine.
Section 3. Despair met with mercy. Now, to truly understand this depth of mercy, the historical sources provide another, seemingly unrelated anecdote.
It involves a man who came rushing to the Prophet in a state of absolute total panic. He had made a grave mistake. He had broken his religious fast, and he believed his soul was entirely beyond saving. "I am destroyed. I am ruined." That is what he cried out. Just imagine the tension, the sheer terror in his voice. He walked in completely expecting severe punishment. He thought he was entirely doomed, that his mistake had permanently severed his connection to divine mercy, and that there was simply no way back for him. But watch how the tension completely drops here, because the Prophet didn't scold him. He didn't turn him away or yell at him. Instead, completely subverting every expectation, he simply handed the man a basket of dates that had just arrived at the mosque and calmly stated, "Take this and give it as charity to make things right." And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer irony of the man's situation. He looks at the basket of dates, looks back, and says, "Ya Rasulallah, there is no family in all of Medina poorer than mine." He was so utterly destitute that he literally couldn't even afford to give away the charity he had just been handed. He was the one who desperately needed it. Now, instead of getting frustrated, the Prophet responded with such profound warmth. The sources tell us he smiled so broadly and warmly that his blessed teeth became visible. He looked at the man and simply said, "Then go and feed your own family with it." In a single breath, what started as a moment of absolute despair and anticipated punishment was transformed into a beautiful solution for the man's crushing poverty. Section 4. Sincerity over size. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it brings these ideas together. These 2 events, the mother at the door and the terrified man in the mosque, bring us to the core theological message. Diverse examples from the texts prove time and again that sincerity absolutely outweighs size. You have the starving mother securing paradise with half a date.
And you have another famous account of a farmer who literally saw clouds ordered specifically to water his garden, simply because he shared his modest income with the poor. According to the texts, the universe bends for sincerity, and the smallest of acts are fully accepted when driven by genuine, honest intention.
This brings us to a really beautiful concept derived from these teachings, the Iman phase. It is that ultimate state of spiritual sincerity where a believer deeply trusts that their pure intentions and their small, honest acts are fully seen, accepted, and rewarded by Allah. Within this framework, this is the ultimate state of faith that we are all encouraged to strive for in our own lives, every single day. This quote beautifully summarizes the sentiment. The historical sources are reminding us that our human vulnerabilities, our poverty, our mistakes, our shame, they aren't actually weaknesses when we bring them forward honestly. Instead, they become the very vessels through which divine mercy operates. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be completely sincere.
Section 5, your shield against fire. So, how do we take these powerful historical lessons and actually apply them to our modern daily lives? So, the crucial point is this paradigm shift presented in the texts. Sharing what you have, even if it feels incredibly insignificant, even if it is literally half of a date, never actually decreases your wealth. Instead, the theology states it shifts your wealth into an entirely different category, placing it under divine protection and bringing barakah, or boundless blessings, into your life. A tiny contribution, shielded by absolute sincerity, is said to generate a spiritual return that we can't even begin to quantify. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final lingering thought. What is the single date you are withholding today? Maybe it's just $1. Maybe it's 5 minutes of your time, or a kind word you've been hesitant to give because you think it's too small to really matter. I encourage you to find your own small, sincere act of charity today. If this explainer shifted your perspective, please share it with someone else who might find value in this history. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep learning.